Bonjour, ni najwo bitang nindago, wajash nindodem, peri bebamash nindigenekas, Michiging nindonjaba, Odaawaa Minising, Manitoulin Minising gaye, Anishinaabe King, Nibiinsing. Ngad Badadan, Inu Shagana Shiwakunagewanan. Robinson Huron Treaty Annuities Case Litigation Agreement, Manitoulin Project Agreement, which relates to all other agreements anyhow, self-governance agreements, land claim settlement agreements. They all have Section 35, what I'm going to explain in this video. But first, we better learn about who we are and what we have first as the Anishinaabe Nation, which includes the groups within the Anishinaabe Nation, the Ojibwe, Odaawaa, Boodewaadamii, Odishkwaagamii, Nibiinsing, Misi-zaagi, and all that speak the Anishinaabe language and have that word, Anishinaabe. That's our nation. And I verified that through my old late medicine man friend, Jim Windigo, who was very gifted and knew the spirit world very well, and sat me down one time about that name, Anishinaabe, and the other names, those came later, the Ojibwe, Odaawaa, Boodewaadamii. But our creator given nation name is Anishinaabe. Doesn't mean human being for everybody in the world. It doesn't mean native to North America. It's a name given to us only, the Anishinaabe. We have neighboring nations, the Haudenosaunee, Okwe-Onwe, Six Nations people, and the Lakota, Nakota people, the Neheao, the various Cree nation names they have. So we have neighboring nations, and I'm sure they would never prefer to us to refer to them as an Anishinaabe. They have their own spirit-given name, just like us. And we were created here in the lands of North America. And we were given to be a nation and established our living areas to where we are today. As you can see where the Anishinaabe related treaties are and the reserves throughout Canada and the United States. You see, this is Anishinaabe land where all our treaties are and the reserves. And we watched over those lands very well before interruption from the European contact through the residential schools and whatnot, the alcoholism, all those things that they threw at us to break our nation. And they very well almost did. Now we have a lot of confusion. That's why I'm trying to help with some of this information and videos and stuff for our people to learn and other people to learn as well. And it's helpful for our neighboring nations as well. So we were created here and we established our lands. And we had wars before European contact. And we had wars with our neighboring nations. We had a great long war with the Haudenosaunee on the east end of Anishinaabe land. And we came to peace, we brothers and sisters. And we have wampums between nations. One of them is the dish with one spoon, so that in time of need for their nation, they may come and eat, hunt and fish and eat on our lands, and we may do the same if we need to on their lands. That's our dish with one spoon wampum agreement with the Haudenosaunee, Okweonwe. And we have the peace and peace with them now. And an ally nation. It'd be nice to have more visits and discuss our nationhoods and our friendship and allyship. And on the west side, as the Anishinaabe were moving around Lake Superior, they met up with the Lakota Nation, the great nation of the Dakota people, and unfortunately had a great war with them for many, many years. Lots of slaughtering back and forth. And finally, the spirits had enough and gave each nation visions on the same time as a meeting. And that's when the traditional drum was given to both nations. And more visions came later for those, and some were traded, some were given to the Lakota, and some were given to us. And many were come through the visions directly to us. I have recordings of my friend, my late friend Jim Windigo, on his vision of his male drum, and the other one that was a gift from the late Jerry Kingbird that gave him the female drum for them. Jerry had the vision for that female drum to be a partner with Jim's male drum, a marriage between the two traditional drums. Those are very powerful spirit drums of the Anishinaabe and the Lakota, if they still have any. It'd be nice to sit down with them for that type of reunion. And dare to be, as that vision came, to be brothers and sisters with the Lakota forever. So that's another ally nation that we have as the Anishinaabe. Very good, strong, powerful nation to have as an ally and friend. Brothers and sisters. And so we have our lands around the Great Lakes through and out west. There's Ojibwe reserves, Anishinaabe Ojibwe reserves, all the way out to Alberta. And down, come back across, down through Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and even a bit further with some Boodewaadamii and Odaawaa groups down there of the Anishinaabe Nation. And it would be a great thing to make a map of all that, you know, the Anishinaabe Nation, all the way up through southern Ontario, into parts of Quebec, across Ontario and back out west. It's a huge map, and would certainly be a great thing for our nation to have and future generations to have that map, and even make some points around the boundaries of that land. of our land, just as any nation has their land around in this world. It's got to be taken care of for the generations to come properly. Never jeopardized, never sold. That goes against the Anishinaabe law to even go into something like that. Think of selling any inch of Anishinaabe land, any square inch. That's high crime, punishable by very serious discipline, punishment. As you can see in the past of the historical stories of what happened to people that may have lied, caused great threat, great serious threat to the Anishinaabe lands or Anishinaabe Nation. And in those historical stories, you see what happened. That's Anishinaabe law. And we should still be using our Anishinaabe law today. We have it. We've been kind of not laying it aside, but just haven't been using it to its full as we should be because of the encroachment of Canadian law and the Crown and the oppression, the asserted authorities that Canada has been doing is only asserted. And we, as a nation, we need to use more of our nation gifts. Take care of ourselves better, take care of our lands better. Just as our ancestors did. Enishinaabemojig. So we have all those stories to look back on. I'm very thankful for all those that recorded in the history, did the writing, did the recording. All that information is very valuable now, even with the language. I get a very good idea of what the original Anishinaabe language was now with all those old recordings. And of course, the nationhood that I was talking about, that give us a very good look into Anishinaabe nationhood, how to manage ourselves in the right way, along with the guidance of the spirits, the Manadok, the Arazokanak. And so we have great land, we have language, we have governance, laws, all that makes a nation. I know, some people are so lost today, and any word of Anishinaabe law, sometimes even the Indian Act chiefs will laugh at it. Even a lawyer may laugh at it, not realizing this is the first law of this land before any Europeans came. And once they came, the Crown thought they may just claim everything as theirs. First of all, let me tell you about, because we were a nation and with no other nation's influence on our lands, we have what they call the underlying title, allodial title. That means a nation's land and that nation only. There's no title above it. Of course, the creator, yes, we know the creator and the spirits own everything. But under the creator, to keep in an order with other human beings on these lands and this planet, we have Anishinaabe. And in English, the research that shows nation title around the world is underlying title, allodial title. And this is what the crown is after. But when they arrived here, like they were trying, like I said, they were going to try to claim that. But thank goodness for Pontiac, Anishinaabe Odaawaa, Odaawaa Anishinaabe. Back in the 1700s, he saw what was going on with the crown and decided to stand up for our lands and the other nations' lands as well. So other nations that helped, and Pontiac was able to gather many men, many warriors, and they started taking over British forts. And they took 11, I think it's 11 of 13 British forts, which forced the king to hold back and come up with the Royal Proclamation, where he states the Indians have title to their lands. Of course, they try to be sneaky with the wording all the time. He knows he meant underlying title, but he didn't state it. All he said was Indians have title to their lands. So we must make treaty. So in those first treaty days, they came to us in our laws. They even presented a pipe and wampum because they knew that was how to respect us and our laws. So they asked us, which means again, underlying title. They asked us to make treaties so they may occupy some spaces on our lands. And so when the treaties were made, that does not mean sale. It does not mean given away. It does not mean underlying title goes to the crown. It does not mean that. They get a certain type of title for usage under their own practicing sovereignty for them, under our granted usage, and they become our head tenant. So our laws and our treaties are the highest of this land. You see on the news recently, Mark Carney, after Bill C-5, goes on live TV and says, Bill C-5 is the highest law of this land. Clearly trying to push aside the real highest law of these lands, the treaties and Anishinaabe law, and of course the other nations' laws, the Haudenosaunee and the other nations. So there's been things like that happening. With the agreements that we're going to take a quick look at here. I'll share a little bit of the Manitoulin Project Agreement and just a tiny bit of the Robinson Huron one, as just to take a quick look at why they're trying to definitely steal underlying title. And again, you got to know that underlying title is a nation's lifeline. It's the backbone. If you lose that, your kids will have nothing in the future. There's been elders, gifted elders, that have been telling this. People not listening. Maybe I'll share that video again also, that of the man talking about the spiritual leader that he talked to about agreements with Canada. Very important message there from that gifted man who had the visions of what happens after these agreements with Canada and the sure dreaded future that would come out of it. So that's a very important video to watch. I don't think enough people take the spirit world seriously these days. back in the 70s, if a man had a vision like that, everybody would listen. Now, maybe only 5% of us or less take that very serious. Those are our laws. For the Anishinaabe Nation, when you get a guidance right from the spirit, from the Manado, directly, not just a assumption or a dream. I mean a real powerful vision could happen right when you're awake, sitting in the bush. And the spirit will take you somewhere and tell you something, show you something, talk to you in the old language about it. That's big, huge part of Anishinaabe law. We always were guided by that. It helped us survive many situations. And it's talked about in our historical documents, the different situations of sickness and war that it saved us from. Being able to have that direct communication with Manadok and Odaawaa to understand what they're saying with the original language that they spoke to us, to get the Enishinaabemojig. It's very important to know for that reason. And so that's a little bit about Anishinaabe history, our nation, our great nation. And I wanted to do a quick little comparison on all of that. Say you have a house. You're the full owner of the house. You have, maybe a couple acres of land around that house. And so you get a renter. You decide this one guy that's been bugging you for a long time to rent a room. You decide to rent a room to him. Okay, so you're the house owner. So on this first rental agreement, you're the one that did it in your law, in your house law. You made that agreement, and that was a rent and all the other things that come with renting to a tenant a room in your house. And so as soon as this guy is in your house, starts to disrespect you. Maybe he's leaving his garbage around. Maybe he's first month he's late with the rent. Maybe the second month he's short on the rent. And this is already starting to happen. And he's trying to poison you. He's trying to poison you with alcohol. Turn you into an alcoholic in your own home. And he's trying to preach to you, telling you that the spirituality that you're with is no good. It leads to the devil. And that he has the proper religion that you should adapt. So he's preaching to you. And this is your tenant that you've rented this room to. And then after so many years, he's behind so far on rent that he's not going to be able to pay it. So now he wants to offer you an agreement he makes in your own house. And so you're going to let him design a new agreement after all the crap he's put you through? Even causing the death of your own children? You're going to let this man write a new agreement and you're going to accept it? Oh, man, you got to be absolutely insane to jeopardize. And in this new agreement, you're going to let him dictate it. And in that agreement, he's going to write down, he shall now have title to the house. And you're going to accept that? When your children and your grandchildren need this house. You can't afford another house anywhere on this planet. So you're gonna let this guy, you're gonna sign that agreement that says now he's gonna own your house and you, and dictate to you what you may or may not have? Oh man, that's just an example of what is happening. These lawyers, well, they're trained to serve Canada, even if they're native, even if they have some teachings. When you go to Canadian lawyer school, it's all to serve Canada. Hardly anything, maybe nothing at all about the real treaties. Only maybe a little bit about how to implement Section 35 that they just came up with after 1982, around there, to fit in this new Canadian Constitution. And some very bad people were involved with that. Same guys that wanted us completely abolished back in 1969. Pierre Trudeau and Jean Chrétien. They're directly involved in the 1982 Constitution and Section 35. And I heard more about it, directly about it, from the guy that signed it with Jean Chrétien. Signed Section 35. And that's Canada's way of saying you have nothing, we'll give you something. Another, going back to before Pontiac's War again, by accepting these kind of agreements, you're letting them go back to before Pontiac's War again, and then saying, we own it all. The Crown shall have underlying title. And I'm going to show you that directly in these agreements and in Canada's definition of Aboriginal title. So that's a little bit about a house comparison to give you a better idea of what we have as a nation and how we cannot throw that away on our children, grandchildren, and generations to come. And I guess there's been some kind of a statement back in, I don't know when they made this, I don't know where they got this from, but some of the Indian Act chiefs were saying that we must take what we can get now. Take any monies now, because we're going to be gone. We're going to be done. There's going to be nothing. Well, I don't know who or some elders told them that, but no. The Anishinaabe Nation has lots of life left, and we just need to take care of it better, correct some of the wrongdoings, and never make those wrongdoings again. And so let's take a quick look at the Manitoulin Project Agreement here. I'm going to share here, I think. And right there. Okay, on. Yeah, okay, I guess that's it then. And you can see it. This is the Manitoulin Project Settlement Agreement, where they went to court for some, what they believe is wrongful sales or something like that, or mismanagement of sales of lots on Manitoulin Island. And this was all done in secrecy. Like the whole Anishinaabe Nation was never talked to about this. I was even surprised when I got a letter in the mail saying they were in court and that this was going through. Never seen or heard nothing. And I have never given my permission to an Indian Act chief or these organizations like UCCMM to speak for me or the Anishinaabe Nation. And these lands and our treaties are not up for fooling around with or taking into Canadian courts for a little bit of money for people to cash in on, what seems like it's happening now with these, now that the money's been released. So, first of all, our lands and our treaties don't associate with this term First Nations. Our lands and our treaties are under our names of Anishinaabe and Ojibwe, Odaawaa, Boodewaadamii. We're not First Nations. We need to get rid of that term. That's the government's way of working all these agreements through and to eliminate us as nations and, again, take the lands for full use, full underlying title to them and usage for resources. Okay, so we got the reserve names here, community names. Ande Kamanakaning, Michiging, Shagwanda, Shishiguaning, Jibasing. Okay. And like I said, Indian Act chiefs do not have that authority to mess around with our lands or our treaties. Our lands belong to the whole of the Anishinaabe Nation, not just these 4 or 5 communities. The Manitoulin Island. This was saved and fought for by the whole of the nation, this Manitoulin Island, and all the other Anishinaabe lands. We have reserves, but that doesn't mean we're just a part of a reserve or a part of a treaty. We're a nation. We have treaties, multiple treaties. We have many reserves, communities. Okay, and let's just skip all the way down to the protections there. That's the main, one of the main parts that is trying to kill us as a nation. Let's see, where is that? Oh, I went too far, I think I went too far. It's 3-3. Right here, yeah. Okay. So right here is where it's referring you to Aboriginal title and rights. Again, we're not Aboriginal. We're Anishinaabe. And Aboriginal, I believe somebody defined it as not even really the original nation that was here. So they're using this name as, you know, as a people that just came here afterwards like they did. But no, we're not Aboriginal. We have each nation has their own name. So what it says here is, further, nothing in this settlement agreement is intended or should be construed, interpreted, or understood to abrogate, derogate, recognize, determine, deny, define, alter, or affect the First Nations. Again, this is not us. This is a government term. It should say the Anishinaabe Nation. This is who Manitoulin Island belongs to. And again, we're not Aboriginal. We don't have Aboriginal rights. We have treaties with the Crown. Aboriginal title? No, we don't have that. We have underlying title. That's the reason why we're able to make a treaty and hold a treaty. Without underlying title, you lose everything. And that's what they want. Canada's always wanted this. There's no doubt about that. And so Aboriginal title, treaty rights. See, it's not even defined. It's not saying the Treaty of Niagara. It's not saying that the Robinson Huron Treaty, the Manitoulin Treaty, the Robinson Superior Treaty. It's not saying any of that. This is just random treaty rights, and it's going to be dictated by Canada. They're going to say, oh, okay, well, maybe you get this, maybe you don't. Maybe we'll cut this, maybe we'll fund you, maybe not. So that's what you're putting the ball in their hands when you accept these agreements. other legal rights or equitable rights outside of the claims except for those rights relating to the claims. Okay, so they're not respecting anything Anishinaabe here. They're quickly trying to designate us to this Section 35 Aboriginal rights, Aboriginal title. Okay, so now let's take a quick look at the Robinson Huron one, where it says the same thing here. This settlement agreement is not a treaty, is not a land claims agreement within the meaning of Section 25 and 35 of the Constitution Act. However, it provides for the implementation. Our treaty was established right when it was signed and the pipes were smoked back in the 1800s. Who put it in your mind that it does not exist and you need to implement it? This is so wrong. Lies, corrupting people's minds, lies, fabricating lies. So awful. Implementation. We can already use our treaties. It's implemented. Like I said, when the pipes were smoked back in the 1800s, it was implemented. What we need to do every so many years is reaffirm it with the king. Have those real pipes and reaffirm these treaties with the king, and that's it. From there, everything is obligated. Canada has no choice. The ball is with us, and they have no choice but to obligate it. But if you go under this, you're handing that ball over to them, which is the underlying title. And I'll show you that in a second too. Implementation treaty rights recognized and affirmed pursuant to Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982. Just like what we were talking about earlier. Okay, now let's take a quick look at Canada's definition of Aboriginal title. Okay, here it is. This is what this is right from the Canadian Encyclopedia, and this is what they use in their courts. Doesn't matter what someone might say of trying to promote Aboriginal title. This is what Canada sees and uses. And so I scroll down here. If you read through this, it doesn't respect you as a nation. Where does it say group? It says group right here, I think somewhere here. We're not groups. They're really trying to downplay the nations here of this land with this wording. But let me take you right to where it shows the Crown is trying to get they're trying to give our underlying title to the Crown. Is that right here? Yeah, right here, yes. So this is a very important paragraph right here. However, Aboriginal title does not negate the Crown's sovereign title to the land. Again, the Crown does not have sovereign title to our lands. They have a sovereign usage within the lands that we allowed them through our sovereignty to use. They may practice their sovereignty, but they don't have sovereignty to the land. Okay? Instead, Aboriginal title is a burden, a legal acknowledgement of that title upon the Crown's underlying title. See, here they're really trying to lie to the nations of this land. You see, going back to when Pontiac fought and the king had to pull back and say that the title belonged, this is what he meant. So where in that time does the Crown get underlying title? Nowhere. We wouldn't even be here if they had underlying title all this time. The treaties would be gone. We'd be all scattered. Maybe they would even ship us out of North America. Who knows what the heck they would do, but this is, again, fabricating a lie. Making everybody, this is what they teach in schools even. They shouldn't even be teaching that in the schools, in the law schools, making people believe that the Crown has underlying title here. It does not have underlying title here. An excellent source of knowledge and information is Janice Switlow's videos, and she has one on understanding title, and she explains it all very clearly and precisely and perfectly. If you can't understand that, then you shouldn't be saying a word, because if you're just going to spit out this kind of stuff, you're throwing away your nation, the future generations. That's thousands of lives that you're throwing away. And so that's that. The governance of those areas where Aboriginal title is recognized and the implication of this title for private property rights have not yet been thoroughly defined. See, there was no misunderstanding before 1982 and this kind of stuff. You know, the land is ours. We have treaties with the Crown, which allows usage. That's it. And this is in all the agreements, those modern treaty Canadian agreements out in BC and then up in the, up north in the Inuits areas. They're practically just final settlement land claim agreements, and they have this stuff in them too, handing underlying title over to the Crown. And it's in all the land claim settlement agreements. It's in all the self-governance agreements, the Lands Management Act, the Self-Governance Act, the Fiscal Act, all of them, the Child Welfare Act, the and it's in the new Additions to Reserves Act. Don't do that. If there's a part of the reserve that's been, you know, lost or somehow, just fight for it as a nation. Do not go under Canadian law for that, because they're going to quickly put you through a land claim or through the Additions to Reserve, which has this in it: Crown shall retain underlying title, which means you in turn end up using their land instead of you using your own land. So they're flipping it on you. So don't do that. Get out of land claims now. I know, you know, there's some reserves. Even I think Chiging might still be in progress of some other land claims. And I got to go into the council again and speak my words. But it's all, you know, it's sad we have to do that. You know, I don't have much time between work and family and personal life to run around and correct all these damn mistakes that these lawyers have done and Indian Act chiefs. You guys got a message to these guys is quit it. The lawyers work on domestic stuff, you know, maybe, you know, whatever it might be, you know, but don't bother with Anishinaabe lands or Anishinaabe treaties. You're just going to get in trouble and jeopardize them like this. And same with the Indian Act chiefs. You guys should be stating all the time in these big meetings and on TV that you're only from the Indian Act. You're not from our laws. And therefore you have no authority over our lands or nations. You're not our real representatives. You're just you know, an employee for the Indian Act. And you should work that way, you know, work to bring the Indian Act funds, the funds that Canada has, are obligated to us, work to get those to the communities, and that's it. Don't start getting involved with trying to govern us or going into Canadian court for these kinds of agreements where you just end up throwing us under the bus. And this is very, very serious. I don't know how many times I've told the Chiging Council that, and the lawyers that came here to talk about these agreements told them no over and over, and this is a life of a nation seriousness. And so those are what's happening, and we still are here. We're still the Anishinaabe Nation. I made a video with some fellow Anishinaabe recently in Zugomok, just to make that statement. We're still here, the Anishinaabe Nation. Many of us, thousands of us, have never seen these agreements in the proper time to understand them fully before they were signed away by the Indian Act chiefs and their lawyers. The lawyers oath and serve Canada, and practically the Indian Act chiefs do too. So that they have the things they sign shall not be bound to the Anishinaabe Nation. Shall not be bound to us. Even though Canada is trying to go with them now, we need to sit back on our nationhood, strengthen it from within, listen to our ancestors and our old way of life, our old governance, and the Manadok and Odaawaa, and listen to all those good things and live with them. Those are Anishinaabe laws. How? So I think that should be it for my talk today. And we'll cover everything. Yes. Well, and I would like to say to a fellow Anishinaabe out there is, make some statements. Show us you're still alive out there, following Anishinaabe laws, staying within them. That you've never signed anything or given anything away of the Anishinaabe Nation, the Anishinaabe land. And that another thing that a quick little reminder is the treaties are land usage only. The waters are fully in our underlying title because we've never treated that with the Crown. And that's why Canada has reluctancy when they do things in our waters, because that should be us managing the legalities around the waters in our lands. That is, anyway, within the Anishinaabe lands, the Haudenosaunee have their waters, and we watch those by canoe. We always watch them. We always watch to see what was going on, and to make sure any nation with bad intentions wasn't coming in to harm us. And we have a lot of historical evidence of that, stories of that. Aha! Misi-zaagi gurayan. Kinawia. Nanakakendamok na. You get to go Anishinaabe women. You get to go Debendang Anishinaabe. Aha, wewe gonna win danda. Anishinaabe wachigewin, Anishinaabe wake. Anishinaabe wadizuwin. Anishinaabe wakonagewin. Aha, Misi-zaagi. Anishinaabe wachigera. Ogima gini wag hindi o gijigong ya oi ha oi ha ya ha ya oi ha ya oi ha ya oi ha